I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to get mixed up in a billionaire's scheme. My life had always been straightforward. Hard work, smart decisions, and a little bit of luck. I wasn't some naive rookie fresh off the block. I had built my name, my brand, and my empire from the ground up. People respected me because I kept it real. No shortcuts, no scams, just pure hustle. So when I first got that message, I didn't take it seriously. A billionaire reaching out to me. At first, I thought it was one of those fake investment emails, the kind that promises to turn $100 into $1 million overnight. But then, my assistant confirmed it. It was real. A household name. Someone whose face was on the cover of Forbes every other month. A man whose net worth had more zeros than I cared to count. He wanted to meet. I'll admit, I was curious. What does a man with everything want from me? I had no interest in shady deals or corporate games. But when a billionaire personally requests a meeting, you don't just ignore it. So I agreed. The place was high-end, one of those restaurants where they don't even list prices on the menu. The kind of spot where power moves are made over a glass of wine that costs more than a car. I walked in, dressed sharp, but not over the top. I wasn't about to play the part of someone I wasn't. He was already there, seated in a private booth at the back. A tall man with the kind of smile that could charm a snake. He stood up, extending his hand. "Big Shaq, my man. Been looking forward to this." I shook his hand, firm but guarded. "Didn't think a man like you needed to look for anyone." He chuckled, motioning for me to sit. "Oh, come on. You're making waves. I respect that. You built something solid. I like people who know how to turn nothing into something." I leaned back, studying him. I'd seen his type before. Powerful, charismatic, always talking about opportunities that somehow only benefited them. "So," I said, cutting straight to the point, "why am I here?" He smirked, swilling his drink. "Because you and I, we're alike. We know how to play the game. But the difference is, I can take you to a level you've never imagined." I didn't respond right away. I let the silence hang in the air. Let him wonder what I was thinking. I wanted him to talk first. People like him always did. And just as I expected, he leaned in, lowering his voice. "What if I told you I had a deal that could double, maybe triple your net worth? No risk, just a smart move. The kind only a few get access to." I looked him dead in the eye. "No risk? That's a lie, and you know it." His grin widened, like he enjoyed the pushback. All right. There's always a little risk, but trust me, the reward makes it worth it." I already knew where this was going, and I knew one thing for sure. Nothing about this was going to be worth it. I could feel it in my gut. Something wasn't right. I had been in enough rooms with power players to know when a deal smelled off. And this reeked of something deeper than just a business opportunity. I leaned forward, keeping my expression neutral. "All right," I said. "Let's hear it." The billionaire's eyes glimmered like a man who knew he was about to sell a dream. He took a slow sip of his drink before setting the glass down. "I have an exclusive investment opportunity, private, invitation only. You won't hear about it on the news, and by the time the public catches on, the window will be closed." I didn't react, just nodded, letting him keep talking. "There's a new tech startup, backed by some of the biggest names in the industry. It's set to revolutionize the market. Think AI, blockchain, fintech, all rolled into one. We're talking about early stage investment, the kind that turns millionaires into billionaires. That last part was meant to hook me. He was testing me, seeing if I'd bite at the chance to level up. I didn't. So why me? I asked. You've got connections with every major player out there. If this is such a big deal, why not go to them? His smile didn't waver, but I saw a flicker of something in his eyes. Annoyance, maybe. Because you bring something they don't, he said smoothly. You've got influence, an audience that trusts you. Imagine what happens when you endorse something like this. People follow leaders and you... He gestured toward me. You're a leader. And there it was, the real reason. It was never about my money. It was about my name, my reputation. He needed me to sell this to the world. I let out a slow breath, shaking my head. Sounds like you don't need an investor. You need a spokesperson. His smile grew wider. I need a partner, someone who knows how to move the masses. You get in early, make your money, and when the IPO drops, we cash out. Simple, simple. That's what they always say, before everything falls apart. I had seen these kinds of deals before. The early investors make their money, sure, but it's the regular people who get burned when the whole thing collapses. And when that happens, the big guys walk away untouched while everyone else is left holding the bag. I leaned back, crossing my arms. And what happens if this guaranteed investment doesn't work out? He chuckled. That's the thing. It can't fail. We control the narrative. We build the hype, set the value, and by the time people even think to question it, we're already out. That was it. The final piece of the puzzle. He wasn't just asking me to invest. He was asking me to sell people a dream that didn't exist. I stared at him for a long moment, letting the weight of his words settle. He thought I'd go for it. He thought greed would make me ignore the red flags. But he didn't know me as well as he thought. I kept my face calm, but inside, I was already planning my next move. This wasn't just a bad deal. It was a setup. He wanted me to put my name, my credibility, on something that was bound to collapse. And when it did, people would come after me, not him. I had to play this right. If I walked away too quickly, he'd get suspicious. If I agreed too easily, I'd be in too deep. So, I nodded slowly, pretending to consider it. All right, I said. Let's say I'm interested. How do I know this isn't just another pump and dump scheme? He laughed, a smooth, practiced sound. Come on, Big Shaq, do I look like someone who plays small? You look like someone who plays smart, I shot back. And smart people don't just hand over golden opportunities without a reason. His smile tightened just a little. He didn't like being questioned. That's why I like you, he said after a pause. You don't just jump in blind. You think, that's good. That's why you'll make a fortune off this. He reached into his suit pocket and pulled out a sleek black folder, sliding it across the table. Take a look for yourself. This is all the insider info. The projections, the partnerships, the exit strategy. Everything you need to feel comfortable. I picked up the folder, flipping through the pages. On the surface, it looked legitimate. Numbers, graphs, signatures from supposed industry giants. But something felt off. I glanced up. And these investors, they've already committed? Locked in. He nodded confidently. All we need now is someone with your reach to bring in the final push before we go public. That was my confirmation. The game was clear. Use my name to bring in more investors, inflate the value, and then pull the plug before anyone realized what was happening. It was classic, and it was dangerous. I set the folder down. Give me a day to think on it. His expression didn't change, but I saw something flicker in his eyes again. Hesitation. He didn't want me thinking. He wanted me committing. Of course, he said smoothly, but I could tell he was already recalculating his approach. Take your time. Just don't take too long. Opportunities like this don't wait forever. I nodded and stood up. I'll be in touch. As I walked out of the restaurant, I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in a long time. When the voice on the other end picked up, I kept it short. I need you to run a deep check on someone, fast. Because if my instincts were right, this billionaire wasn't just running a scam. He was running out of time, and I was about to find out why. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up, going over every detail, every word he had said. My gut was screaming at me. This wasn't just a scam. It was something bigger, something messier. And if I wasn't careful, I was about to get caught in the middle of it. By morning, I had what I needed. My contact had worked fast. The report landed in my inbox just before sunrise. And when I opened it, everything clicked. This billionaire wasn't just playing dirty. He was drowning. Turns out, his empire wasn't as solid as he made it seem. Behind the flashy headlines and success stories, his companies were crumbling. Lawsuits, failed projects, quiet buyouts to cover up massive losses, and this so-called exclusive investment opportunity? It wasn't just a scam. It was a last-ditch effort to keep himself afloat. He needed one big cash grab before the walls closed in on him. That's why he came to me. He thought I'd be desperate enough, greedy enough, to sell my name and my people out. He had no idea who he was dealing with. I made my decision. I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to make sure he never pulled this on anyone else. That afternoon, I called him. I'm in, I said, keeping my voice steady. Let's meet again. I want to bring in a few trusted people to hear this from you directly. He took the bait instantly. Perfect. Let's do dinner. My place. Private. No distractions. I agreed. But what he didn't know was that my trusted people weren't investors. They were authorities. By the time I arrived at his mansion that evening, the setup was in motion. He greeted me like we were old friends, all smiles and fake charm. We sat down, drinks in hand, as he launched into his sales pitch again. Same smooth lines, same promises, but this time, I wasn't playing along. I let him talk, let him dig himself deeper. And then, right when he thought he had me, I leaned in and said, "You know, I did some digging." His smile twitched. "Oh?" I nodded. "Yeah. Turns out, your empire isn't as solid as you make it seem. Lawsuits, shell companies, unpaid investors. You're not building a fortune. You're running from the wreckage." His face darkened, the mask slipping for the first time. "Be careful what you say, Shaq," I smirked. "Nah, you be careful. Because in about 5 minutes, this whole conversation is going public." He was already reaching for his phone, probably to call his lawyers or his security. But he was too late. The authorities were already outside. The doors burst open. Agents swarmed in, their voices sharp and commanding. He shot up from his seat, but there was nowhere to run. As they cuffed him, he looked at me, eyes burning with fury. "You set me up?" I stood, adjusting my jacket. "No, man, you set yourself up." As they dragged him away, I walked out without looking back. This wasn't just about me. It was about every person he had ever scammed, every life he had ruined trying to save himself. And now, his game was finally over.